this meeting view.
Okay,
Great.
there we go.
Thanks, Chris. Okay, we're good to start. Yeah, thanks everyone for tuning in. It's great to see some people with their cameras on. When we're on here giving a talk, it's always good to see smiling faces to know that people are following us and we're not all just nodding off to sleep. But yeah, so I'll start us off with the news and then I'll pass over to the main presentation. So just share my screen. Okay, astronomy news. What's been happening above us? So the Lucy asteroid probe is still flying despite a partially unfurled wing. So if you tuned into our last astronomy meeting a couple of weeks ago, you would have heard James's talk about the NASA Lucy asteroid probe. So just a reminder, this probe is going to study asteroids in Jupiter's orbit. And out in Jupiter's orbit, it's obviously much further away from the sun than we are here. And the sunlight there is 25 times weaker. But this particular probe, like a lot of spacecraft, is solar powered. So obviously, you know, harvesting the sunlight is quite tricky when it's that it's like that much further away from Earth. So the solar arrays that we see pictured here are very important. And what's supposed to happen is when this launches, each of these is supposed to kind of open out like a Japanese fan and go all the way around. But what happened after liftoff is one of the solar arrays failed to unfurl all the way. So one of them's fully open and harvesting all that really useful solar power, but the other one isn't quite up to scratch yet. And at the moment, NASA still is investigating to try to understand what's going on there. And you know, hopefully they get things sorted out. They haven't ruled out having to launch it again or just to kind of rectify what's going on. But hopefully, if all goes well, the plan for Lucy is to visit asteroids. It will visit more asteroids than any other spacecraft, and it will operate further away from the sun than any other solar-powered spacecraft. So there's a few things on the way for Lucy. Also in the news, Jupiter's great red spot isn't just wide, it's deep. So these new findings come from NASA's Juno spacecraft, which has been orbiting Jupiter since 2016. And recently, Juno turned its gravity science instrument onto the storm to see if it could measure it, to find out more about it. So this isn't unheard of. We have used gravity tools before to detect storms and climate events here on Earth. So I thought, well, let's have a look at Jupiter and see if we can find out more about the storm by looking at the gravity underneath it. And yeah, the results were quite surprising because we've always thought that the Great Red Spot was rather flat, like a big pancake, just kind of on the top layer of clouds. But the new findings show that it's actually quite deep. It extends 500 kilometers beneath the cloud tops. Now, to put that into perspective, that's the distance from the sea level on Earth to the International Space Station. So that's the height of this storm. And in this particular picture, we can kind of see this in comparison. We can see just how wide and deep the Great Red Spot is compared to planet Earth. Also in the news, first exoplanet potentially discovered in another galaxy. So exoplanets, it's just basically another name for a planet that's not inside our solar system. And we've discovered heaps of exoplanets up until now. But so far, all the ones that we've actually discovered and have firm confirmation that they exist are all in our galaxy until now. So now we've found a potential exoplanet in 28 million light years away in the Whirlpool Galaxy, or M51. And if it's confirmed, this will be the first confirmed discovery of an exoplanet in another galaxy. And it's interesting the way that astronomers found this, because quite often when we're looking for planets, we use something called the transit method, where we watch the light dipping from a distant star. And as the light goes down and comes back up, we know that a planet is transiting between us and the star. But in this case, rather than looking in the visible light spectrum, they decided to look at X-rays, because some stars release some small bits of X-ray emissions, and they figured if they kind of hone in on the X-rays, that will give them a much clearer picture to look at, to watch, rather than having to watch for the very subtle dimming of visible light. So using this method, they found what they're pretty sure is an exoplanet, but they can't really be certain yet. There has to be some more data gathered. And they said that if they wanted to just wait until the planet orbits again in front of that star, they might have to wait a while, because it's probably going to be about 70 years until the next orbit. So hopefully they find a different way to confirm this before then. And yeah, the big news here about the X-ray detection, this could lead to a new era of planet detection, now that we understand we can find planets using X-rays as well. A strange white dwarf switches on and off. So just as a reminder, white dwarfs are the remnants of stars that are around the same size of our sun that have burnt out. And this newly discovered white dwarf in particular is accreting material from a companion star. So this is an artist's impression of what that looks like. So we've got the white dwarf over here that's at the end of its life, but it's kind of sucking off the material from this one star here and increasing in terms of its own brightness. And some white dwarfs that we observe tend to fade over several days or months. But with this particular one that was discovered, it was quite interesting, because this one lost luminosity in only 30 minutes and then regained it. So up until now, we've thought that the changing luminosity in white dwarfs happens quite slowly. But here's one where, as we were watching it, we saw it over the case of half an hour, the brightness just dropping way down, like someone just turned off the switch. And then a while later, it turned on again. So we're still unsure what is causing this, but the theory could be because it's getting this material, because it's accreting this from the companion star, maybe something happened, like something else got in the way of that orbit, and that was interrupted for a while. And so for that half hour, it couldn't get as much material, so it was getting dimmer. And then it corrected itself and it kind of came back on again. But in any case, it's interesting, because it means there are more more variations of these white dwarfs than we thought. And finally in the news, the first chilies grown in space have been used for zero-G tacos. So for the last few months, NASA has been growing chilies and other vegetables on the International Space Station to study space-grown food. Because in future, if we want to go back to the moon and go to Mars, we're going to need a steady supply of food. So they've been doing a lot of research in this area. And on the ISS, astronaut Megan McArthur has used the newly harvested chilies in what she describes as the best space tacos yet. So here we can see the tacos in question with some of the green and red chilies. And it was a lucky chance that MacArthur and the other astronaut that had set up this operation were still on the ISS at harvest time, because they were actually scheduled to be back on Earth by now. But there's been holdups with the space crew, the SpaceX crew launch that's going up to the ISS to bring them home. That's had to be delayed because of weather and things like that. So yeah, it's just chance that she happened to be there when the chilies were all nice and ready to be harvested. And yeah, now we know what zero-G tacos taste like. And that's it for the news. So I'll pass back to James for now. Thanks, everyone.
Oh, thanks, Josh. Yeah, quite interesting. As a chili grower myself, one positive thing about growing them in space is you don't get the slugs eating them. Yeah, I've been having an ongoing battle with slugs eating my little chili plants. Well, our next speaker, as I've mentioned, is Haritina, and she needs no introduction. She's been on here before, talking about all exciting things, remote telescopes and the like. So it's always really, really fantastic to have you back. And I thought it was way overdue that you gave us the talk on Mars as well, and what your experiences were trying to simulate living on Mars, especially as Mars is so much in the news these days, and that whole idea of living and working and having a colony on Mars. And it's people like Harry who are paving the way for that to actually be reality. So without further ado, I'll hand over to Harry.
Thank you, James.
Welcome, Harry.
Thank you for having me.
It's fantastic to see you again. Thank you so much for doing this.
I'll turn the light on. Actually, I just realized my light is off. So people can see the beautiful real poster that I have behind me, which is not screen, but it is Curiosity, and it's quite cool. Our house is has posters of Mars everywhere, and we'll explain why. So I'm just going to share my screen. Can everybody see the presentation screen? Very good. Well, thank you so much for having me. It's such a pleasure to be here with you again, and you've got all these amazing gatherings, and I really admire how you keep everybody together and how you provide all these talks. It's very, very awesome to see you doing this fantastic work, and I'm very honored to be again invited here to talk about something that I love the most. And I was thinking how lucky I am that I get to do these fabulous things, and then twice I get to be able to talk about these amazing things that I'm doing. So yeah, I think it's part of it's something that I kind of like found out the hard way, and that is, if you follow your passion, then you end up doing things you would not have thought were possible. And I think for me, the Mars experience is one of them. And this is a photograph. So if you look at the picture here, this is a photograph of me and one of my colleagues in the first mission that I went there in Utah. To the right, you can see the hub. It's the tiny cylinder. There was the astronomical observatory at the time was on top of the hill, and that's where I spent my evenings when it didn't rain. And I changed the sky. I changed it to look like the sky on Mars, but everything else, it's on Earth, and you can see as not New Zealand. It's very different than New Zealand. So I thought I'd put a little bit of an introduction. Why am I doing this? And I'm a horticultural engineer. I've got a master's degree in environmental management. I've got a master's degree in international security. And the reason why I did the second master's was because I really wanted to understand why people fight with each other, and why is it that we kill each other, and is there anything that we can do to raise awareness and to just maybe be kinder and see if we can live together and, get past the cultural differences that sometimes make such rifts. And after all these years of doing space science communication, I totally, truly believe that we have to become a spacefaring civilization in order to survive. And I'm going to show three of my favorite photographs. This is in 1946. This is the very first picture of Earth from space. Amazing, amazing picture taken by Clyde Holliday. They just strapped the camera on top of a V2 rocket and sent it out there and took a photograph of the Earth. And they were convinced aliens existed. So they said, this is how Earth would look to visitors from another planet coming on a spaceship. I mean, they were convinced. And all those aliens and conspiracy theories is because people in the 1900s, 1910s, 1920s, 1930s, they were absolutely convinced that aliens exist in our proximity. They didn't probably think the aliens, if they exist, I mean, they do exist, but they're so far away that we weren't able to communicate yet. And it's like so ironic. on top of a ballistic missile. This is when the very first picture of the Earth was taken. So things like these kind of like sensitize me even more to want to do this, to want to learn more about how to communicate about what we have here. The other one is obviously the Voyager, very famous picture taken on Valentine's Day. So this is a Valentine's Day photograph for Earth. It's Earth, obviously. And then the third one is this, which again, it's the Hubble deep field and extreme deep field. It's the XDF at the time. Very, very awesome photograph as well. So those are galaxies, right? Everything that we see, all those tiny little dots and squiggles and things are galaxies. And in my job, which is space science communication and astrobiology, you have to ask the question, where is everybody? And so if we go back to Earth and how life on Earth started, this is one of my favorite slides because it shows the whole green thing is as far as we have proof of life that existed. And all those lines that you see through, these are events where Earth almost got obliterated. Life on Earth got obliterated, not Earth, sorry. And it destroyed, like the yellow one, 96% of the species on Earth almost disappeared. So we're very lucky. We're so lucky. We're the descendants of all those microorganisms and things that have survived, you know. And we are multicellular for a very short time. So it is quite staggering when you look at it in such perspective. And then in here, I'm taking just the last bit, from the last red line to the 0. So that's the next slide, and that's when humans evolved and when we went to conquer the world. And then the black line that marks the number 0, if you can see it, that black line is actually, it's 2 pixels because I measured it, and I think it's quite funny that it is like that. And that's actually here. So it's since agriculture was invented. So it's been so long, like life on Earth has been for so long. And and people are wondering, why didn't we go back to the moon? So this is kind of like, for me, it was ridiculous. Like, look, we've been here. Life had so many 3.5 billion years we know of life on Earth, and people now are wondering, why didn't we go back to the moon? It's like, can you have like a little bit of patience maybe? Because things kind of like take a slower turn. But you know, they're right. We have to go back to the moon. What I realized again is like how lucky we are, right? So many things happened for us to exist. We had I don't know, all sorts of things. This is part of a presentation that I did for the French embassy that it's called Why Bother? And it's a long presentation where I go in depth about all these things, but I thought I'd show you a few slides because ever since I made this presentation, it's kind of like following me and is right there at the back of my head. And I keep thinking of it all the time, how lucky we are to be here on Earth alive. So then what? Then all we have to do is just wait for the sun to die. Is that what we're doing? Like, is this what we're supposed to be doing? There's many people say, oh, we shouldn't go to space. Why are you bothering with space? Like, again, like I've been doing space science communication since 2003. Most questions and comments were, we don't do space. I don't like space. Why don't we go to the oceans? Or maybe I'm just a biased person because I can hear these things and I don't really like them, right? So I only pick up those questions. But many people don't care about space. So I think my reply is, right, so what are we going to do instead? Just wait on Earth for our sun to die. Or we could go to Mars. We could become a spacefaring civilization. And this is a slide that I took from my Mars exhibition, where I put a quote from Robert Zubrin, he who created Mars Society in the US, who is an engineer. He's an aeronautical engineer. I'm a horticultural engineer. I know how to grow food, but he knows how to grow rockets. And he's into science. And he was saying that he was very inspired by the Apollo missions and people going there. And he was working in his basement and he was exploding things. And he said, learn your science and you can become part of pioneering a new world. I absolutely love that quote of his. And he's one of the most passionate people. He's one of my heroes, most passionate people that I have ever met. And I had this enormous opportunity, incredible chance to actually go and do real Mars research at the Mars Desert Research Station in Utah. And so here are two pictures. One was taken, the top one was taken by Curiosity at Mount Sharp on Mars. The second one is taken by me at MDRS in Utah. And you can see the similarities. Actually, the colors are the colors from Utah are not, you could sometimes in the light you can almost see them in almost the same color as the photograph out there on Mars. It was like, wow, this is so similar. It is an amazing place. Here it is. It's just fabulous. And if you have ever been to Utah, it's this like desert that looks like nothing else, and it's barren, and it's got these beautiful, beautiful hues. And when I first went there, it was wintertime, so there was nothing green. So it just looked so alien and strange and wonderful. So this is a photograph of people who, this is the new setup. In the meantime, because the hill you can see was a bit crumbly, and the observatory, while I was there, I think every single night I was going to I was realigning the pier, the mount. It was the worst thing ever. Every day it was going around a little bit. So it was it's really good that they moved it. Now we have a robotic observatory there as well, and I'm still part of the astronomy team. Sometimes I'm just like I just can't believe how amazing this place is and how lucky I was to be able to go there. And here are these people from around the world with their rovers. They had a rover competition, and that's another photograph that again is like so beautiful of MDRS and of the whole landscape. Those are the Henry Mountains at the back on the right hand side. I've been there. I've been on top of that mountain as well. And all of these formations that you see in here, I'm not a geologist. I was told they're inverted channels. So these are ancient riverbeds, and it's just so amazing, the things that you can see. And I went there, and when I first went there, I heard similar stories from people who go to Antarctica, and they're like, we went to Antarctica and we just had to go back there. And I was like, I don't care about Antarctica, but I went to MDRS, and I thought I would do whatever it takes. I want to go back there. I was like, what can I do to go back there? So I was again like very lucky, and in a way, and now I start to believe in that very much, because people say you make your own luck, and I think it's so true. But I don't think it's a matter of luck. I think it's a matter of what you put your attention on, and then once you put your attention on, your mind starts showing you things that you wouldn't normally see. So that's really, really interesting, and I had a long time to ponder on all these things. So I think what I'm trying to say here is that we can make our future. It's not a matter of luck. It's a matter of us deciding that we want to create a future, and then just, draw the plan and follow the instructions and create the future. And I think that's what I like Robert Zubrin so much, and I admire him so much, because he really has a plan. He cares about getting people to Mars. And I don't know if he's going to be able to go to Mars, but he inspired people like Elon Musk. That observatory that actually you saw there, that's the Elon Musk observatory. Elon Musk donated it when nobody knew who Elon Musk was. When I was there in 2011, they were like, Elon who? And now it's like, so he was like, so it was just one of the Mars Society guys. And at the time we were Facebook friends, and we were talking about MDRS and stuff, but I just in the MDRS group. So it was like that crazy. And now look what he's doing. So So there are a few Mars. There's a couple of Mars. There's the research stations. One is in Utah. One is in Devon Island. This is in Utah. It's next to this place called Hanksville, and they have these T-shirts with "Where the hell is Hanksville?" I can't pronounce the other word, but that's what they basically say on the T-shirt. It's really, really cool. This was just in carved inside a mountain, and there are other places where people study, obviously, Mars. One of them is the European Space Agency, goes to Antarctica to Concordia Station, and that's another Mars analog. So one of the things that kind of like struck me, and it was insane to realize, it was that there are so many people around the world who actually study Mars, work for Mars. People take Mars seriously. They take space seriously. So this is what I learned when I was. So this is a photograph of an earlier version of me. I'm 10 years younger here in this photograph. Is my first Mars mission. I was in heaven. I cannot tell you how happy I was, because I don't have words to tell you how amazing that mission was. And on that door, you see the names of everybody who's been there since 2001, since the Mars Desert Research Station was open, and everybody went there and put their names on the door. My name was there too, until they decided to paint them, and they stripped them down. And I was like, what have you done? I was upset for about a month. I didn't want to talk to anybody, because I thought, how could you destroy those doors? They were like, our proof that every single person went there and made their mark. And so this is open since 2000. I've been there in person and in spirit 4 times. So the first time I went with the Romanian Space Agency, they put us on a plane. Virgiliu Pop, who's the second person from the left, he's the one who came up with the idea, and he's the one who actually contacted me and asked me if I wanted to go to Mars with him. And I was like, haha, sure. And then a few months later, I was like, it was an amazing experience. So he's the lead of education in Romania. He works for the space education. He works for the Romanian Space Agency, and he's a space lawyer. So, and he wrote a really, really cool book called Who Owns the Moon? So very, very cool stuff that he did. And he's like a super creative guy, and he came up with this idea. But his idea changed my life. So the whole trajectory of who I am today was because of that expedition then. And so I thought I have to get back. The next year, I found a bunch of 5 other people. We paid for ourselves. We couldn't find sponsorship. Everybody was telling us that space, we're not interested. We didn't have a space agency at the time. They weren't interested at all in anything. So that time I had to pay for the trip, but it was worth it. And we went back there and we did the biggest outreach Mars program with New Zealand schools there had been done at the time. It was amazing. Kids would log in and they would talk to us, and it was just so cool. So my whole program at the time, and I was the commander, so I can brag that I'm actually a Mars commander, even though in spirit, right? Because I don't have any military ranks, but it was really, really cool. And we had an amazing outreach program. That's my mission, actually, was for outreach. I wanted to see how to do remote outreach, how to do remote field trips, which is funny, right? Because now we're in the COVID times, and we've been there, done that with the Mars things. And then in 2013, I thought I've been there very many times. So I felt like other people should have had the chance to go there. So I organized Task Mars, where I found 6 people from, I could totally go there, but I chose not to, because I thought other people, in all honesty, they wanted to go there, it's a life-changing experience. And they went there. 2 of them were from NASA, 2 of them were from Australia, and 2 of them were from New Zealand. And in those overalls that you see in there, they're from Biosecurity New Zealand. So they're New Zealand overalls from the border. So that's we had to bring them back. They didn't, they were just on loan, because at the time I was working for the Ministry for Primary Industry. So they contributed with that. Ministry for Primary Industries was amazing. We were testing ArcGIS. They gave me a team, like you wouldn't believe it, like out of all the workplaces where I've ever worked, I think MPI was by far the best and the most amazing. And they gave me this team of people who are actually mapping stuff from our missions on a map in real time, and we were working on that. And then finally in 2013, that was my last time I went there, during the World Space Week with a team, and we only stayed there for a whole week. I've got a certificate of participation on Mars. My name is on Mars with very many of all the spacecraft that went to Mars. I put my name on them, which is really, really cool. That's my name there somewhere. It's on a microchip. I'm sure most of you have your name in there as well. So yeah, this is us in the first mission. That's Virgiliu. And we only made 5 of us made it. One of them couldn't come because of visa problems. This was the second one, the second mission from, we had 4 New Zealanders and 2 Australians. Very, very cool. This is the third mission, Task Mars, and that's the MDRS, Mars Desert Research Station Mars mission. So super cool. This is an aerial picture. I'm just going to show you photographs because it's just so cool just to look at the pictures. This is us in the decompression room, it's called, and you have to spend a few minutes in there before you're allowed to get outside. It's fake. Everything is fake. But here is the thing. What we realized very early in the mission, and when I got there with the Romanians, was this: if you don't pretend, then the results are not real. You have to kind of like really pretend and believe that you're kind of on this remote place that is Mars, and you have to start behaving. It's like it's acting gone crazy, because if you don't, then all your reactions and decisions and everything, they're not real. So this is Kiwi Mars. It's our Kiwi mascot that has been there 3 times. Really, really cool. And again, it has been an amazing place, life-changing, and putting things in perspective. The reason we go there, it's because we're trying to understand what can go wrong on Mars, where you're on a mission before you go to Mars. There is no hospital on Mars. One of my crew members twisted her ankle, and I had to drive her 190 miles one way to the hospital immediately. There wasn't any helicopter or anything. So things like that can happen. And if you're not prepared, what I came to understand is that you really have to have military training, or to be really, really well trained yourself in anything to be able to do a mission to Mars. You have to be able to follow orders, to not question things. It's very easy to get upset. It's very easy to get upset when you're like super tired, like you're so grumpy. I didn't sleep because I didn't want to sleep, because I thought, why should I sleep? It's just so cool. Here's some more pictures. These are some photographs from inside. And I just couldn't sleep because it was just so amazing. And because I didn't sleep, I got grumpy, and I didn't even realize I was grumpy because I was so tired. So I learned that the hard way. And I was thinking, wow, we're learning all these things. We're learning from all our mistakes. We make so many mistakes in here, and really good that we're making them in here, and we don't have to repeat those on Mars. So that's why it's so important to just follow instructions. This is me cleaning the stairs. These are the stairs that we're going to the next level. So they have, one stair, another stair. Very, very cool design to climb up. It's a lot of cleaning in there. There's a lot of dust. That's a view from the attic. That was me there in the attic taking pictures. You can see the names of the people on the doors. Now it looks better. So now if you go online, and they have a VR experience as well that they launched this year. So super, super exciting. This is the ancient version of that hub. But I think it is amazing because it's part of the histories. All these people, we went there and we trained for Mars, and we tried to understand how to live on Mars. And it was really shocking for me to discover. That's the Musk Mars Desert Observatory, which is so cool. It was really shocking for me to discover how many people actually want to go to be and to train and to understand about Mars. That was my wake-up call. And I thought to myself, all right, I'm gonna start taking the space thing very, very seriously, because until then everybody was like, oh, you're silly Billy, space is silly, do a proper job. And that was my turning point. It was like, no, I want to do space, and there's nothing that can stop me. So it was really, really awesome for me. It was that was it. It was what, as I was saying, what made me be who I am today. They gave us dried broccoli out of all food. Apparently broccoli is really, really good. And we were part of a NASA food study, and they were asking us to try and cook the dried ingredient from dry ingredients, and then another day, so alternate days, they were giving us canned food, and you had to write down, you had to make reports, you had to talk to mission control every day. We only had 250 megabytes, and yes, you heard right, megabytes of data per day, out of which we had to send 6 photographs, very small resolution, but we did. And we had to send reports, and we had to make sure that sometimes some cameras were on that were supervising. So all of that had to happen in 250 megabytes. But that was 2011, but we did it. Those are fried bread, my grandmother's recipe that made it into a Mars cookbook, which is like really cool. This is me washing the dishes and doing some stuff, which was really awesome. I had like 100,000 cameras with me, because that's what people had. This is David. David went into the second mission in Mars, and he used to work for NASA, and he used to work with the Dragon crew. He's one of the founding members of the Mars Society Australia. Unfortunately, David passed away because of cancer a few years ago, and it is very sad. He's the one who actually invited me to, after the mission, to go to NASA Ames and meet everybody there and learn more about Mars. And so I owe him a debt of gratitude forever. And it is very sad that he left us, because what he used to be a mining engineer in Australia, and now he was working at NASA on all these spacecraft and drills and things. And he was saying, he's like, I'm living my second childhood, you know, when he was there and doing all this stuff. So really, really awesome guy. That's 2 of the Romanian crew outside on a mission, mapping and looking for life and understanding to, you know, how to find life. This is David drilling. This is a replica of Curiosity that was at MDRS. I mean, as I was saying, I'm just going to show you the photographs because they're so amazing. This is where I picked up an endolith, which is a piece of rock that has algae in it. And again, life is everywhere. You can see it. This is it. You can see a green stripe through it. That's where microorganisms live. And how amazing is that you can see life is absolutely everywhere here on Earth. I was completely fascinated and taken by lichens. Here in New Zealand, like, you have so many lichens, you like step on them and it's like everywhere. And I came to, and on Mars, at MDRS and my Mars, right? And then MDRS, they're also everywhere. But what I came to understand is that if you would go and you try to terraform Mars, probably lichens would be some of the very first things that you would have in there. So I have the utmost respect for lichens. And there were so many and so beautiful, so amazing. And that's the amazing picture that I used for the first slide. And we were just trying to find directions on a map, believe it or not, which is really cool. More lichens. This is when the sewage broke and we had to fix the pipe because it was, and we were the engineers, because, you know, I was the engineer of the crew as well. And because I'm an engineer, right? So I was, me and Dragos were fixing for real. So this was a real emergency, minus 20 degrees that night. So the pipe froze, and therefore we couldn't take showers anymore for the duration, for the remainder of our stay in there, which was kind of like a week. So imagine that. More amazing landscapes from there. this is a piece of amber under microscope from my second mission. This is shale, I think it is shale, but it shows the crisscrossings from a riverbed. This is gyps, I think it's just gyps, and this is water basically captured, and that's one of the things that you do want to find there on Mars. And I just totally, again, loved these things. And this is sulfur. So all those minerals and all those things that we're learning about at MDRS, turns out that they're on Mars for real. And water, right? What Curiosity searched for, and we were, trying to understand how to find all these things here in Utah training. That's another photograph. Yeah, I mean, how wouldn't you? I don't know. I love that. For me, this is it. There is MDRS and then everything else. And how wouldn't you want to go back there? So that's the Musk Observatory. I was spending, as I was saying, most of my evenings in there. And you think, why would you spend it on Mars? Where, because it can be an outpost for planetary defense and looking for all these asteroids. That can be something. Probably Mars has better skies than Earth. This is a photograph of the Milky Way that I took with my Canon 30D camera, which now is like completely retarded, right? But at the time was like an amazing camera of the habitat, and I put it upside down because I just thought it was so cool, because it just feels like you're like going towards the planet, and there's the Milky Way kiwi in there. And these are some more landscapes that I took at nighttime. You can see maybe, the sky obviously is upside down, and that was kind of like towards Andromeda, was in that part of the sky, Andromeda and the Pleiades and Perseus. That was, but this is the center of the galaxy. So, it was just insanely beautiful, and I would just not want to go to sleep at all. Because it was just so beautiful. Orion upside down. And I thought, because we can, I show a photograph of Earth from Mars. So these are taken by the Mars Global Surveyor with the Mars Orbiter camera in 8th of May 2003. There was an alignment of Jupiter and Earth, and so you see Earth and the Moon and Jupiter in there, which is absolutely wow, from Mars. Like, this is how the sky from Mars looks like. And again, this is the high-rise photograph of Earth and the Moon, and this is a composite image, which means is they were taken separately. But how amazing it is that they can see Earth. I mean, we see Mars from Earth, right? Like that. Earth is bigger than Mars, so it would look better. But how cool it is! It's just, I think it is just so too cool, for us to see these things. And obviously, so weird. Sunsets on Mars are blue. Like, how amazing! And we know why that happens, right? And how scattering occurs and things. But still, like, sunsets are blue on Mars, right? How beautiful that is. That's another one of my favorite pictures, because it shows the human element, and that's us just going back. You can see a human car in there next by the observatory. This is me. It's me descending, and that's more landscape of MDRS. That's us, me and Virgilio with our rover. We're trying to make it go in our first mission. And again, this is just wow. Probably I'll say just wow for the next few slides. This is a picture taken from the engineering bay, which was a bit behind in the 2011 mission. That box in David's hand is actually a Raman spectrometer, and it is something that they use, NASA is using to actually look for organic traces. And so that was the real thing. So what they were doing here, they were actually looking for, so this mission was had a lot of science, and Jen is working for NASA. She works for the Curiosity rover. She's a geochemist with the Curiosity rover. So what she did, she put together a kit of rocks that you can find on Earth and you can find on Mars as well, which are called analogous rocks. And that thing was gypsum. Yay. So I remembered. And that's a map that we did. This is our part of our EVA, and which was EVA means extravehicular activity, since Neil Armstrong went to the moon, but it really means when you go outside of your hab, because your hab is considered the vehicle that you go there. So that's the map. And that was, I mean, you have to imagine this happened in 2011 when these things were not invented yet, like GPSs and things weren't as accessible as they are today. So my phone was like super advanced, and I managed to take a snapshot of the trail where I was, and that was part of one of my mission of exploration that day, because you were doing a reconnaissance every day and you were trying to see where you were going. That's Emma and Melanie and Jen looking at this rapid water deposit on this cliff here. And I think this probably is one of my favorite pictures ever. And I was just thinking, now that I was reviewing this presentation just before, and I was thinking I should frame this and make it into another big poster, because next to me and Kiwi, there's a dinosaur bone, right? And if you can maybe try and spot it. And it was one of my happiest days. I'm like, here I am in this amazing place doing this Mars research next to a dinosaur bone, which I never ever thought was possible to see, let alone touch it and things. And that's the dinosaur bone. Here it is. It's buried there, and I know the location with precision because I wrote it down. So, yeah, and here it is. That's another dinosaur bone. It was just insane. Just absolutely so weird. And these are pieces, fragments of dinosaur bones, and they look like bones, which is, again, so cool. So many cool things to be there. And what I was there, I was the crew engineer, and I was the crew astronomer, engineer by day and astronomer by night. And what I was doing, I was trying to grow food and things like that. But the thing that I missed the most, and you were saying that and the news, one of the pieces of news was how people ate tacos, fresh peppers in space to go with the tacos. And I can tell you something from eating dried food. One of the things that happened on the first mission is that we completely destroyed the microgreens. And so we didn't have any microgreens. So for 2 weeks, we had to eat only dried food. And after that, I swore that if my mom will ever give me vegetables, I will always say, yes, please, can I have more? I will always eat my vegetables after eating dried food for the duration of that mission. And I was thinking when I was there, because, as I was saying, you have to pretend you're on Mars. I was thinking how terrible it must be for astronauts in space to be able to not have fresh food. There is a photograph of this astronaut, and she's like smelling a grapefruit, and it just feels like it's the best day ever. And I know how that feels like. I know how that feels like after eating just dehydrated food. So when I left, I didn't really care much about green, and actually green wasn't on my list of colors. But what I missed the most when I was at MDRS was the color green. You wouldn't believe it. And I'm coming from a country that 3 months a year has white, right? So 3 months a year we have snow, everything is covered in white. I was like used to that. But to not see green, even for 2 weeks, it was again you have to pretend, and it's like, okay, if I would go to Mars and I wouldn't see green for the rest of my life, how would that feel? It doesn't feel easy. That's another picture of a butte there, and I changed the sky again because I could, but it's just so spectacular and beautiful. So these were the kids. We did the support interface, and the teacher was super happy. So so they said really good words to us. And so for me, it was, as I was saying, life-changing experience that inspired me to do more. So what happened after I came back and I did my master's in international security. And one of the things I learned is that if you want to get things done, you have to have an organization of some sort. So until then, I was volunteering for all these organizations and committees and things, but I realized that I had to have something. So I put together a plan called Le Grand Plan. At the time, I wanted to do a New Zealand Astrobiology Institute. I went to NASA to ask for their support, which they gave me. They gave me names of people who they knew they would have been interested in astrobiology, and I wanted to have a teachers. We wanted to have a NZQA. So that was the plan. That was in 2014. This paper is from 2014. What you see in there, this is when I wrote it. I wanted to have a course at university, and I had no idea how to do it because I didn't even, I had nobody that I knew at the time. So I was at NASA to actually understand how can I do astrobiology and how can I put together astrobiology here in New Zealand, and what do I need to do. So that was my kind of like thinking, we could do an Antarctica program, have a master course, have a course at university, at some university. I had no idea where it was. Teach the teachers. That was my first plan, get the teachers and get them inspired and get them to teach astrobiology to schools and things and stuff. Right, so that was the plan. And Spacefaring, which was an idea to bring New Zealand NASA people here to do expeditions, analog expeditions. And what happened was the New Zealand Astrobiology Network that I put together in 2016, and I had amazing support, and it was the best. And we did this Spaceward-bound expedition in Rotorua in 2015 with half of those people are from NASA, half of them are, a quarter from them are from NASA, a quarter are from around the world, and the rest of half were from here, from New Zealand. And it was an amazing thing. We came back the next year, we did another NASA expedition with kids from Rotorua. We taught astrobiology in the field. We went on all sorts of wonderful places and amazing places. This is us on top of the mountain. We were studying the volcano with our chair of the board is Professor Kathy Campbell, and you can see her in the red sweater in there, and she's absolutely amazing. And now she's at the forefront of the Mars research here in New Zealand. She had a Marsden grant that she won a few years ago. She got $1 million for a Marsden grant for research for Mars in New Zealand. So that all the stuff has been following from us putting together the New Zealand Astrobiology Network and doing things with a purpose, if I can say so. So here are more kids that we taught, and we took to all these places to learn about Mars analog. It's just been amazing. And then Kathy, she because of the Spaceward-bound, she got together with these people from Australia, and they published a paper that pushed the origin of life on land with 500 million years. They published it in Nature, and that got her to be on the 3 finalists teams that were going to choose a landing place for Perseverance rover, which was absolutely huge. So all these things happen because people talk to each other, and that's my claim to fame. I just made them talk to each other by putting together the New Zealand Astrobiology Network. And so I think things are happening if you put your attention on them and if you plan them properly. And then we made a conference, which was amazing, first New Zealand Astrobiology conference. And then we made Synergies in Space, where we went to the school in Oxford, and it was the best again with all these kids. We had 2 people from NASA and us, and we were there, and we were just, it was the best. We dressed them up. They all wanted to be astronauts. We did a lot of outreach. We went, visited about 2,000 people that year, talked, and the 2 NASA people were Mitch Schulte, who's the chief scientist from Perseverance, and Jen Blank, who is a geochemist for the Curiosity rover. I think my favorite thing when I went to Oxford School, I come into this classroom, because we stayed there with the school for a whole week, and the teachers was like, we're like, take them, 250 kids, take them, they're yours for the whole week. So it was like, leave us alone, come back, we'll come back on Friday, see ya. So I go into this classroom, and this was Mitch. And what Mitch was doing in this picture here, he was explaining to the kids how to choose a landing place on Mars, to these, and everybody was, the whole week, everybody was super engaged. They had, I remember they were saying they had these 2 kids that had attention problems. All of them were completely stuck to the whole mission. It was so amazing. And then Kathy Campbell managed to put together an astrobiology course for university. We had support from the US, we had support from NASA to do that. I had the, but she put it together, and she had it transformed with a New Zealand flavor. She has New Zealand people teaching it. I'm teaching planetary protection, and we had 166 students at University of Auckland in the first year for the astrobiology. We had 199 in 2021 this year, and again, it's just so cool. And we did a virtual field trip. It's just so amazing. So out of all the Le Grand Plan, things are happening. It's just so awesome to see it happening. And bonus for me, in November last year, so exactly a year ago, I was opening an exhibition that I put together and I designed, and that is Kevin covered. He's U.S. Embassy. He's the chargé d'affaires for the U.S. Embassy, and I got him to cut the ribbon for the exhibition with my special Zinger scissors, which is very, very special, and I hold very dear. It's an anniversary version of it, and it's just like, for me, was old things and new things and future all together in there. So the exhibition was my labor of love. I even painted it myself. I designed the posters myself, and I slaved for about, I think, 3 months to put it together. And I used it very much to drink my coffee and pretend I'm on Mars, because I miss my MDRS mission so much. I just put this with all those photographs in there, and it's really, really cool. That's me very excited about it. And we have these rocks from New Zealand. We explain how New Zealand research goes. This is us at Wings over Wairarapa. We had this really cool tent, and we had the rover, and we also have a portable planetarium. So if you ever want us to come and visit, we can. It's our portable planetarium, and we use it again to teach Mars and do all these things. And Sam, my partner Sam, who is not here today, but he's the one who actually see all those wires and things. That's what he did. He's 3D printed all these 2 rovers that he's done, and put them together and wired them. And God knows what he did, because I have no idea. But I'm sure there's a lot of people who would know what he did. So that's it. This is our dome at the MOTAT last year, which was again like really, really awesome. Before people came through and invaded, some kids actually jumped on it because they thought it was a bouncy castle, which was like cool. But it's like, yeah. Right. So what's in the future? I'm almost done. There's a lot of stuff that is around Mars or on Mars, but I don't know how many people know that this year it's 50 years since we first transmitted something from Mars. So Mars 3 Russian probe went in December 50 years ago on Mars and transmitted a line of code. And I think it's just phenomenal. How people celebrated 50 years since we landed on the moon. It's 50 years since we landed on Mars. And, there's like all these programs and things that are happening. The latest rover is here. Obviously, this is Jezero Crater. And this is a slide that I got from Mitch, who was doing all these Mars and NASA presentations. And that's what NASA wants to do. They did follow the water, explore the habitability, and then seek for signs of life. Now, because I'm teaching planetary protection, which is biosecurity in space, and because we're seeking all these signs of life and things, I have to say that this year, because it's 50 years since we landed on Mars, the agreement is that there are 50 years of exploration, and if you don't find life on a planetary body, then you can take it over and do whatever. So it's a bit sad that we didn't manage to find anything, because it is what it is, right? We didn't manage to. doesn't mean that there isn't life or there wasn't life. We haven't found it yet there. I think I'm almost convinced that there was life on Mars. But yeah, so now the Elon Musks of the future can go and take over Mars, and it is, yeah. Last thing that I wanted to say, a lot of people come to me and say, oh yeah, you're gonna tell us that Mars is planet B and we've destroyed Earth, and now you want to go to Mars and destroy Mars, and I'm here to say that I never think that we should ever consider Mars as planet B. Mars should be Mars. And one of the things that we're learning from space exploration, and even from, say, for instance, terraforming Mars, when we're going to do that, if we're going to do, is this: if we're ever going to be able to terraform Mars, the knowledge that we will accumulate to be able to do that, wouldn't we use it here on Earth to save and preserve and make Earth a better place in the first place? So I don't think Mars should be plan B. I think more and more, I think we should probably, as humankind, if you ask me, I know nobody asked me this yet, but in this presentation, but I'm just going ahead and saying it. We should probably live in space colonies, and maybe, leave the planets as they are, or probably people will go to Mars anyway, so it doesn't really matter. To the moon, I would love to go to the moon. I would so much love to go to the moon. That would be something that would be, maybe more attainable. But we have to survive. And then, I've been, again, thinking about this, and I'm correcting myself. We can't just survive. We have to thrive. As human civilization, we have this, for the first time in history, the luxury to actually not have the same fate as the dinosaurs had. And I think this is what makes us very different. And we have all this Earth. There's nobody around because we looked. There's no aliens. It's just this bowl, this marble that is suspended in this blackness of space, which is insanely beautiful. Our beautiful blue marble, and that's all we have. And I want Earth to exist forever, or as long as possible, whichever comes first. And I want humankind to survive. I want my species to survive. So I think it's time for us to kind of put our thinking caps together, get our kids to do and go and learn science, and have science as the English language, right? So not just I don't want to learn science. No, you have to learn it, because everybody should speak science rather than anything else. And I think that's the thing that's going to save us and put us in the future. And here is a proof how they've done this ventilator for COVID. And there is that's a photograph from a spin-off magazine. There are so many more spin-offs, which are technologies that are developed in space that we use here on Earth to save life and protect Earth. So that's what I think, and that's what I'm doing this now. And now, after all these years, I can totally speak from my truth, and that's what I'm telling everybody when I do these talks. We must become a spacefaring civilization in order to protect Earth. So see you on Mars.
Oh, well, thank you for that. Amazing. Although I don't mind going to Mars and chopping a few trees down.
More like lichens, right?
It's just amazing, that all those years ago, people were thinking about Mars, and so 10, 15 years ago, and look where we are. And it's a relatively short amount of time where people could be on Mars within our lifetimes. And to think of all the things that, going back to the moon, and forming a colony on the moon and things like this.
I want to see light pollution on the moon. I totally want to see there.
Yeah, people thinking has changed so much as well. Now, I was having a look at there's someone's got an idea of sending a telescope out just beyond Saturn.
Yeah.
And so it's actually, you know, it doesn't even need to be a Hubble type thing. It could just be, you know, quite a small one.
Yeah.
And you would be getting the same results as with Hubble, just that little bit apart. And to think of things, I mean, it's achievable. We can do it, you know. And but what, you know, what's amazing is people like you that have gone in there and done the hard work, you know, sort of, so that we know what to expect and expect the unexpected, you know.
Yeah.
I think that's just so exciting. I think that's what's come across as what excites you as well, is that you're paving the way for the next stage. And well, in your case, the next stage is almost here. You know. I mean, if you just have a look at, you know, space travel, and that's, you know, when I was young, it was, you know, only NASA or you know, Russia, you know, that was it. You know, to get into space, you know, it's just a dream. You know, you would never ever think it would be reality. But you know, you have a look at it now, and just for, you know, a couple of $100,000, you can go up, and you know, Elon will quite happily put you up there. And you know, it's getting, you know, affordable, you know, to the point where, you know, for some of us, we could actually go up into space sometime soon, and you know, relatively cheap.
Yeah, and there's Artemis mission, and you know, they want to do the lunar gateway, and so that's why I'm hoping to see light pollution on the moon before I die, like a lot of it, right? Because you can point out and say, look, that's whatever city is going to be in there, and that's that city, and Tranquility City, and Serenitatis City, you know. That would be amazing to see those things and take space seriously. I think for me, the biggest change was from people making fun of me that I was so in love with space, to me taking myself seriously. And then finally, when I realized that actually, I think, like, in a way, I gave myself permission to do that. Now I'm like, yeah, we can do this, but it's not about us. I think space research is the most important thing now, because that's where the survival of humankind is ultimately. You know, we're not gonna survive if we go to explore the oceans, or I don't know, I'm like, with all due respect, but we'll survive if we understand how to exist outside of Earth. That's how we will survive and thrive as humankind.
By the way, if anyone's got any questions, just pop your microphone on and give us a shout. I think Chris has got a question there.
Yay.
Hi, Haritina. Just got a few.
Chris.
Yeah, thank you. Surrounding your missions. Can you start, what was your longest mission there? You did 4, is that right? 4 missions?
Yeah, it's 2 weeks standard. It's not long, it's 2 weeks, but it is 2 awesome weeks.
Great. When you're communicating with sort of mission control, did you build in like a 20-minute delay with each communication to keep that realistic?
No. They figured out that it was too hard for because the thing is, at the time, it was a health and safety hazard to pretend they were doing that, because when you learn about a place, you want to first get out of the way whatever hazards are there. So like if the pipe breaks or freezes or whatever, you can't just pretend that you're on a 20 minutes delay or anything like that. That's so like that. I think that's what made it so real, because it was the real thing. We're here to make mistakes, and we're here to learn from our mistakes, and so other people can learn for real. So they decided and it's a very good question, Chris. They decided that they were gonna ditch that because it wasn't gonna work properly.
Yes. And I noticed that, for example, someone sprained their ankle and you drove them to the nearest medical centre. Was there a line where you draw, sort of, we'll manage so much here versus, okay, sprained ankle, we're on Mars, we've got to manage this anyway, or versus, hey, this is a really bad one, it could be a break, we better break the rules in X-ray? What was sort of...
Yeah, so I had to, so when you go there, you use a day to get trained. So you get trained by the previous crew, and then day number 2, you're starting your simulation. So you have to behave as if you were on Mars. Now, more or less, because the first day is like you get acquainted with the equipment and you know what you're going to do and the program. And I had the schedule for everybody prepared, and we actually lost a couple of days from all of that schedule, which was huge. And it was a lot of things that we'd end up not doing because of that sprained ankle, which completely derailed the beginning of the mission. So we had to cope with that as well. And, you know, like schools lined up in New Zealand and reorganize those and whatever. But and for me, I felt responsible because I was the one jumping up and down, and I said, hey, this is so cool, come with me, this is the desert, it's so the most amazing experience, you must come with me, we need to organize this, you know. So I went and I convinced those people, and then there it wasn't even there was no doubt that I would make sure that the safety of my crew was there in the first place. And I just felt like that, you know. It wasn't like, oh, I had to do it or I had to take care of them. I just really felt responsible for dragging those people in there. So then when Anna Lee twisted her ankle, I just jumped and I said, this is it, where I don't, because she was like, oh, maybe it's going to be okay. So I said, I don't want to guess, you know, I don't want to be here in 6 hours time and your foot is like now big as a football field. And because I what, you know, there wasn't even the idea of not going to the doctor. So I said, this is it, we're breaking the sim, I'm taking you to the doctor now, I don't care, you know, whatever it takes to make sure that you're healthy, because that was a very, very serious thing. And I think that's why it's good to make all these mistakes here on Earth, and then you say, okay, what do we need? And we need to make sure that when things are serious, we are taking them seriously as well and report them. And, you know, yeah.
And you mentioned one of them, you're a commander.
Yes.
I believe in some of the longer ones, they've experimented with the idea of, say, if they're up there for, 6 months or a year in these simulations, some of the missions, correct me if I'm wrong, have rotated the commander role to create some sort of morale thing, or just for unity within the group. Is that so?
I don't think so. I think, personal opinion, okay, I think it should be a military operation. I think people should be trained, they should be creative, and they should be like scientists and curious and everything. But at the end of the day, to be able to go to Mars, I think you will need a lot of discipline. And I tell you this, why I think it is like that. My first mission there was, from that point of view, a disaster. And I don't really speak about it publicly, but it's been many years now, and I think it's fine in a way. It's been a disaster because none of us had any military training whatsoever. And there were all these 10-year younger. So it was me and Virgilio who were, I was 38 and he was 37. And then everybody else was like 10 years younger. And they're like, I don't want to do this. Why should I do this? I don't really care. I'm pretending, nobody can see us because we're so many, so I had to fight with them. And I was like, you gotta be kidding me. We came here to represent our country, and we came here to represent this and to work for a real thing. You cannot just do whatever you want because you don't feel like doing it, because nobody's watching or something like that. So that for me was, plus I think your heart has to be in it 100%, right? So you're either completely obsessed and you want to do it, which was my case, or you're like, oh, that's a cool trip, I like to be here, but I don't really want to do everything because it's kind of hard. And it wasn't just the first trip, it was the second trip, it was the fourth trip, the third trip. All the trips were full of scientists who were amazing people, but not everybody, but some of them lacked the discipline the self-control and the super passion to do the things, the right things, right? So I think that's where you have to be really serious. And I probably think, you know, like when you go to Mars, you're going to go to Mars for real, but whoever they select, they will better make sure that those people are following instructions. And again, we're going to these places to simulate how it would be to live on Mars, to learn about these things, you know. And I can probably write a treaty on insubordination, what I have seen and probably, you know, like you go to Antarctica would be the same problem. You go to anywhere else would be the same problem. But you go to a military unit, nobody's going to dispute, oh, I want to be the commander for 2 weeks while you're not the commander. My partner, Sam, he commanded New Zealand troops in in Timor. Right. And he was telling me how, I was like, nobody came to him to say, hey, Sam, can I be the commander for 2 weeks? Please. Thank you very much. Because the commander has special training, I don't know, codes, whatever it is. So the reason why you're a commander is a good reason.
Just one other question. I think it's Haritina, is I saw some of the pictures. Some of the time you're all in spacesuits doing EVAs and some of the time not in suits. Was there reasons for different amount of donning spacesuits? Yeah.
So you're in spacesuit from the second day or the third day, depends on how easy and fast you get acquainted. And the reason you're not in spacesuit, so we were not in spacesuit for the first 2 days for reasons of health and safety. And because I wanted my crew to be safe, and it's kind of like a common practice. I mean, people want to go there and get dressed immediately, but I wanted to make absolutely sure that everybody is super safe. Those things are horrible. Like they're really heavy to wear. You can't smell anything with them. You can't touch anything because you have to wear the gloves. You can't run. You have those backpacks are actually ventilators that are ventilate the air. You have to make sure they're charged. And if you wear them for 5 minutes and then you take them off, that's like, why are we bothering? Why are we here? You know, if we're not doing the right way, but then you do have a couple of days in the beginning, 1 or 2 days, depends on, as I was saying, how acquainted you are with the equipment and everything, that you're saying, all right, you guys make sure we got to do a little bit of a recon, have a look at the rocks, what can be a hazard identification. We need to do a stock take of what food we have, what equipment we have. So you do all that stock take while you're sane and you've got your pen and paper. So you have a really good situational awareness at the end of it. And then you can start playing Martians once you know how to do this, you know, more or less. But that's why, and we were only undressed for the first 2 days, but then we took the role seriously and everything we were doing. So every time you would go outside on a mission or anything like that, even on a walk, you had to dress up, and because that's why we were there to do.
Thank you.
So I've got a question, as an avid gardener. What were the things that you were growing in that habitat?
So we tried to grow microgreens and failed, as I was saying, but we also had watercress, and we had the system of gray water. The system of gray water at the time in that configuration of the hub was going through plants that were in a greenhouse in there. So that was kind of like the stuff that we were trying to grow, and you know, the usual lettuce and tomatoes and things. We were trying to do an experiment and see if they grow on regolith. Obviously Earth doesn't have regolith, it has soil, but that soil at MDRS is probably the closest to they did some after me. There were a few missions that came with regolith that simulated Mars regolith and tried to see if they can grow potatoes. Lettuce is the best one to grow because you can measure nitrogen very easily. It's the easiest one to to take measurements of. So then you know precisely what kind of chemical element you have in the leaves and things, and if it's too toxic and you die, you don't eat it. But you want to grow plants. You want to be Mark Watney. I was Mark Watney. That's what I was. And I'm proud of it. I actually cried when I saw the Martian because it was so, I'll never go to Mars, but that was my Mars in Utah.
Never say never.
Yeah.
Say things were moving so quickly, you never know. Eh?
Yeah, true.
In 10 years' time, we could all be doing this with a 20-minute delay.
Who knows? Yeah. Well, I promise you will be the first on my list. If I go to Mars, I'll be calling you and say,
I'm here.
Let's do
You
the
need a passenger, I'm in.
Yes.
But does anyone else have any questions? So you can just pop your mic on and speak, or you can just type it in the chat as well.
I must admit, broccoli was an interesting choice of vegetable.
Broccoli was yuck.
It's
Well,
right.
like, seriously, broccoli out of everything else, you want us to eat broccoli, but apparently broccoli is very good for you. And actually, if you put cheese on it, it's quite delicious. I had broccoli for dinner tonight.
Yep. Well, it's
bad.
Was it Brussels sprouts are the worst?
I actually love Brussels sprouts. Now that you mentioned it, I totally love Brussels sprouts. I don't know why, but yeah. So yeah.
We do quite a lot of broccoli. This year I'm actually growing some, and it's like, it looks very space age. It looks like a little NASA pod.
Awesome.
So I'll take some photos and send it to you.
Please.
It's quite funny. But it's a kind of new technology that's being used now, for growing things like that. But yeah, it's been a lot of fun. That's growing things, and of course I do aquaponics, which I think would work really well on Mars as well. So as you could get the fish over there, I think you can grow things in regolith quite easily with aquaponics.
Haritina, is there any plans for any more astrobiology conferences in New Zealand?
Yeah, we want to do more, obviously. We just didn't do any because of the COVID, and so many things happened, and we had to kind of like strengthen our the New Zealand Astrobiology Network, and like think about, okay, what are we going to do? Because everything we did was on volunteering time, and we're hoping that maybe from next year it will be more than just volunteering time. I don't know. I'm still working on it. I still have another job, but that's the dream, to actually do that for real, and like not for real because we're doing it for real now as well, because it's a charitable trust, the New Zealand Astrobiology Network, but it is based on my volunteering time and two other people, maybe two more. And what I need to do is make a team that will work with us, and then we will have capacity to organize even more conferences when we can organize conferences. We thought about doing an internal one. Kathy was very busy with putting the course together as well at Auckland University. We did this virtual field trip. We went and filmed in Rotorua. It was amazing. So we've been like really busy doing a lot of background. You can't really, like when you do a lot of stuff, but you can't really, it's like the ducks on the pond, they're paddling, but nobody can see them. They just see the movement. So hopefully there will be another one in a few years. We actually talked about it, and we should have one every year. So hopefully from next year we will have a little bit more time. I mean, even the Mars exhibition, it's a small thing. It's 6 meters by 6 meters, and that was like 3 months of my life. Again, like working after I'm coming back from work, weekends and things. It was amazing, but it was a long, and having that exhibition here physically, it meant so much for me, because it all of a sudden brought a reality. Is like, wow, this is real. It's a Mars exhibition. I'm doing this, it exists. So gave me like a sense of place. So I think that was really awesome. So yeah, so the short answer is yes.
That's great, because I'm doing astrobiology in the new year at uni at Swinburne in Melbourne.
Cool.
I did their masters in astronomy, and I had to drop to fit something else in. You can't do everything. So I'm going back as a separate unit to do astrobiology. And
oh my gosh.
Yeah, so my question from there is how do I register an interest so to keep in the know in New Zealand and other people who are watching this in the know. So, hey, how do we get to know about conferences and other activities or involvements? I've got a medical degree as well as my astronomy degree, so I'm interested in astrobiology and I'd love to get involved with it.
Well, we're based on volunteers, so like, why don't you just join us? And we're a charitable trust. We do all these events. We're a small but dedicated team for now, and there is space for people who want to come. And I don't know, one of our very first intern last year, she studies biomedical engineering, biomedical sciences, and she's gonna go and study medicine, and she loved that. She loved just learning about astrobiology, and she's a university student, and she's very young, but she was and she's helping with the newsletter. We have a newsletter that you can sign up for. But if you have time to spare for now, and hopefully in the future for proper work, why don't you, there's an open invitation to you to come and join us, come and see what we could do together. Maybe there's something that you can do that you would like to do, and we could support you.
That's the New Zealand Astrobiology Network.
Yeah.
I'll look it up. Thank you.
Great. I look forward to hearing from you. I mean, you've got my number and everything. It's yeah.
Thank you.
It'll be amazing to have a chat. Yeah.
So Harry, what else are you doing down your neck of the woods these days?
Yes, I said I was gonna. So I've done a movie, and also I've done a movie, which is an amazing movie, if I can say so myself. How do I stop sharing this? I think it is.
Let's stop sharing.
Okay, good. So I'm going to show you what I've done, which is amazing. It's something I've been doing since 2005. Just bear with me for a moment. And I, like all of the other things, I thought it was gonna be just a dream. And in 2018, there was, okay, here we go. Here you go. In 2018, can you see it?
Yep.
Yeah.
There was a TUIA funding that came through, and John Dow, who's our project manager, came to me. He wasn't our project manager at the time. He was my business mentor, and he said to me, there is a fund from TUIA. Are you guys going to do something about it? So I said, let's have a chat with our director at the time, Brett Mason. So he went and talked to him. And then they came back to me and they said, oh, what do you think we should do? Because I was the senior science communicator at the time for Museums Wellington, here in Wellington. And I was like, I would love to do a planetarium show about navigation, the difference between European navigation and Pacific navigation, because I've been fascinated and obsessed with it as well since 2005 when I met Jack Thatcher. I made a Maori star compass. It was Maori because it was with the Maori names and things at MDRS. So at MDRS there is a tohu, there is a stone. One of my crew was Maori when we came back the second time. So we put the stone, the Maori, in there. It's from Wellington Harbor, and we have a Maori star compass, which so I've done that, and we published like a poster, and we said we've done this on MDRS and on Mars, and we were like talking about navigating by the stars because you don't have satellites on Mars and things like that. Anyway, so that was like a nice dream and something nice to have. But then they said, okay, what do you want to do? And I said, I would love to have this planetarium show. And they said, okay, let's write it down. So we wrote it and we put it to TUIA, and they gave us $450,000.
Oh.
Right. So then we're like, what should we do? So John Dow became the project manager, and I worked very closely with him, and he found a proper movie director, Lala Rolls, who is, here is the poster. And it's really cool, really, really cool. So if you just Google the Navigators Museums Wellington, you will see the trailer as well. actually, maybe if I just press here.
So this is available now?
Yeah, it's at Carter Observatory, unfortunately. Here, have a look at this.
Kia ora, I'm Moko. Sail through time and space with me and my ancestors.
Moko, learn the compass. Mark the stars as they move from Pitinga.
Nuputavati? I bet that's you. Captain, Lieutenant Cook, and Tupaya, the Tahua. Follow the star path to Aotearoa, the land of the long white cloud.
Oh,
So it's cool. It's so cool. It's such an amazing movie. It's just been like beyond my wildest dreams.
how long is this going to be on there for? Is it like
Forever. It's our first
brilliant.
movie, first proper movie done properly as a planetarium movie. So we want to put it through our, sell it to our planetaria around New Zealand as well. But if you do come to Wellington, just let me know and I've got the keys. I'm just saying. I have to get approval from my bosses. So, if they're ever watching, I do. Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Oh, well done.
It's been an amazing project, and it took the last 3 years of my life has been like so consuming. This was like I've been researching and I wrote the science and I wrote all the research behind it, and then these people came with their magic, with their computers, with their graphic design, and Lala took my science and made it into the story about Moko, who travels through time and meets with all these people, and it is an amazing movie. So please go and watch it.
Oh. And what's happening out at Stonehenge?
I'm not really sure what's happening. They had a lot of groups and things. We've been doing stargazing there for the last 2 years. It's funny, it's like exactly 2 years now. And I think like right now we're just trying to see, because they have all these other events that are happening. So we're trying to see when is actually good for us to do stargazing. If we can't do it in the weekend, which is the only time when we can, then yeah. So we're in a bit of a just like thinking about break there.
Oh, are there any other questions? Well, thank you very much, Harry, for joining us this evening. It's always a pleasure having you here. And I want to say you've made it a bit more exciting thinking about going down to Wellington after the lockdown, where we can finally escape.
Yeah.
We come down and see you and see the movie. And
well, it'd be lovely to see you. And yeah.
So, yeah, I'd say thanks everyone else for joining us as well this evening. Well, fireworks.
Oh, nice. Yeah,
Perfect,
fireworks.
perfect timing. But yeah, thanks everyone for joining us. Of course, we'll be meeting again in about 2 weeks' time. I'm not sure what we are doing then. Just keep your ear to the ground, watch your emails, check the Facebook group, etc., etc. Don't forget the astrophotography competition, open to everyone, from Joe all the way up to Chris. There we go. He's at the top of my list here. If you've got something that can record an eclipse, go ahead, give your best shots and be creative. I'd say lots and lots of prizes. So that's your target. Of course, there could be a bit of an issue when we all go out and the clouds come over, but if that happens, we'll just carry on with competition with something else, do something else. So there we go. So thanks everyone for joining us. Chris, you can turn the recording off if you...
Yes. Yep. Stop recording.